We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked.
And complete the dang fence.
This bill that we will sign today is not a revolutionary bill.
Cast down your bucket where you are.
We come from France.
And I am, adamantly against illegal immigrants.
They're coming in by the thousands, just unbelievable.
A wall is an immorality.
Who are you rooting for?
Those masters of the universe are at it again.
They're not sending their best.
You maniac! You blew it up!
Welcome to Parsing Immigration Policy, the podcast of the Center for Immigration Studies. My name is Mark Krikorian, Executive Director of the Center. And today I'm going to be talking to Scott Mechkowski, who is a retired ICE official, was a veteran for many years in the U.S. Army. A lot of interesting stories. A lot of his time in ICE was spent in New York, so he dealt with sanctuary city policies, criminal aliens, that kind of thing. And he's also relatively recently joined the advisory board of an advocacy group called National Immigration Center for Enforcement, which I think was not a coincidental name since it spells out nice. And I remember I've heard ICE people tell me that the joke is, we're ICE, not nice. So anyway, Scott, appreciate your coming on. And if you could just kind of tell us kind of the basics, how did Scott Mechkowski get to be Scott Mechkowski?
Basically, ever since I was a young man, I wanted to do something that, I thought would make a difference. And so a dream of mine was always to be in the military, serve my country in uniform. And then I wanted to serve as a government official in some capacity. So right after high school, I went to college for a short while. I was having a hard time. And I decided to join the military full time, went away, joined the active duty Army, did tours in Hawaii and Louisiana, got married to my wife, Laura. She decided that she needed to pursue a career, which is kind of hard in the military. So I decided to get out of the Army, come home so she could pursue her career. And I applied for several jobs and I got on with the Drug Enforcement Administration, Newark, New Jersey. I was there for about, I want to say 5 years. And I was putting all kinds of applications in and boom, I got hired by immigration as a deportation officer.
Right. Yeah, so part of ERO, the Enforcement and Removal Operations section of ICE. So you got up to the point of Deputy Director of the New York Field Office. And so you would have been in a while. I mean, you were there, 20 plus years in ICE. When did you retire from ICE? How long you been out?
So I retired in December of 2018. I went back to work 2023 as a rehired annuitant for a year.
Right.
The special type of employee working for the Director of Field Operations for ERO.
Right. So that must have been a real change. I mean, you retired before Biden took over, and then you came in for a year under Biden. So how did ICE change over all the years you were there?
So while I was in the academy, going through deportation officer school in 1996, IRA went into effect literally a week after graduation. The memos came down. So all the laws, all the stuff that we had been trained on
all changed
a week after graduation. I mean, I literally reported back to the office in Newark and they were like, I come back thinking, I'm going to be a smart guy. I just got all this information. And then they were like, all right, everybody, all hands on deck. Everything just changed. So I think that was a blessing in disguise, though, because I did learn the old stuff, which was relevant for me for about, it's still relevant to this day, and it always has been because you had to go back before IRA, especially in cases that involved criminal aliens to where, they may have been subjected to some type of form of relief that wasn't available to them under IRA. So interesting times, man. Mandatory detention, like everything changed overnight. So everything you learned at school, out the window a week later.
Interesting. I'd never thought of that. Yeah, that's wild. I mean, obviously better in the sense that the 96 immigration law gave ICE a lot more. I mean, it wasn't ICE then yet, right? Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was still INS back then, but gave them a lot of extra authorities. And
Absolutely.
So what was it like when you came back for a year under Biden?
I mean, every administration has its ups and downs, right? I would say that when I came back, it was very different.
Yep.
Yeah, very different. You're just coming out of COVID. People were home working from home. Everything was done teleconference.
Right.
People couldn't be in the office every day. They only could be in the office 2 days a week. Like it was insane for me to come back and
sure,
to work in that type of environment. But
so what are some of the things you worked on when you were in New York? I mean, there's some operations that you guys did against MS-13 and smugglers and stuff. Any stories there that kind of stand out for you?
I gotta say, my time in New York City. So most of my career, I worked fugitive operations. That's probably where, like, besides supervision, right? Meaning the actual work, even as a supervisor and assistant field office director, I was out in the street with my employees all the time.
Just explain to listeners, what is a fugitive operations team? What do they do?
We got funded by Congress, or after 9/11, they came up when ICE was put in. We were designed to go out and get people who were violators of immigration law and their whereabouts were unknown.
Basically tracking down particular illegal aliens.
Yes. And I mean, the focus was always criminal aliens, people who overstayed in orders of deportation, those types of things, removable aliens.
Sure, of course.
So that was always my thing. New York City had so much. I mean, it was like going to a buffet.
Yeah.
There was, I don't know. It's just really hard to explain. The work was exciting. The people, the employees in New York were great. I mean, I had such a great time, but we did so many great operations in New York City.
Right.
The issue, though, was ERO could never really build a bridge, right, with publicly with the mayor's office.
Right.
Those were challenges for us, right? But I'd say secretively, the cops, all these other people loved working with ERO because we were on the street every day.
Right.
They knew what we were doing. We would help them with cases. So there was always this cooperation until about 2012.
Yeah.
And then it just went sideways for a couple years. And, here we are today. So
interesting. So the actual patrolmen in the field were happy to work with you.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, they'd see us and go, hey, you guys are great, man. And I'm like, because we were on the street every day as deportation officers, almost every day. Okay. So, you can't get work done in the office besides making sure you got legal sufficiency. We had people that did that for us with OPLA. Like we did all of this,
like the paperwork stuff in the back end, you mean?
Yes. And we would get cases, review them. And I mean, our track record in New York was pretty good. I mean, we were a criminal rich target environment.
Sure.
We arrested a lot of high profile cases for the agency. So
now would have been, I mean, I want to ask about the sanctuary policies there that you kind of alluded to, but it seems like, in a sense, fugitive operations teams, I've actually spoken with some of them. It's pretty labor intensive. I mean, you've got 3, 4, 5, 6 guys, they do surveillance and make sure the person's at home, and then he's leaving his home because you don't want to go there. There might be kids. Wait till there's a car. He's in the car. You pull him over. The whole thing is labor intensive. It's a whole lot easier, isn't it? Just to go to Rikers Island, if that still exists, and just pick up all the illegal alien criminals they're arresting for regular crimes.
Mark, that makes too much sense.
Yeah,
right?
obviously.
Yes, I would say this. You hit the nail on the head, right? When you say it's labor intensive. We prided ourselves on what I always used to say this when I would give lectures at colleges or, to different groups like ALA and these other NGOs. They would come in. I would sit down with them and tell them all the stuff that went into a fugitive operation and the time that it took. And I would call it precision policing.
Right.
And, they could never understand the term. And I would tell them, like, look, I get A files. I review the A files. We decide whether or not we're using prosecutorial discretion up front, whether we're going to front load that case. Like if it was a case where it involved like a human smuggler, sex offender over a B2 overstay, we're going with.
Sure. The smuggler or the sex offender,
right.
Obviously. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Right. So not that we weren't interested in the B2 overstay, but we really want to get the bad guy off the street. So, it takes time. By the time you go and you check the appeals process, you make sure that there's nothing pending. You're looking for stuff that might help you. And what a lot of people don't realize, they think it's like so easy to go and find people. I mean, yeah, it's kind of true, but criminals know you're looking for them.
Right.
So they don't, they're not swiping credit cards every day. They're not on social media platforms, sometimes they do, but I mean, what I'm saying is the guys that have been in and out of the system and they know that ICE is looking for them, they're not going to put themselves out there.
Of course.
So they're not getting phone bills in their name. They're not getting cable bills in their names. All the things that we have access to and they know, they're not doing that, right? So they're a little harder to find, but persistence, always pays off, right? Like you got to go at it. Like I'll give you an example. I had this guy, he had 37 convictions in New York City for all kinds of stuff. And New York was looking for this guy forever and a day. And I said to them, where the guy comes from, I know that his mother is still alive. So we waited and I told the guys, well, we're going to go on Mother's Day to see if he shows up at the mom's house. The guy never went by his mom's house. Like we did surveillance time after time. And I figured, let's give it a shot on Mother's Day. Mother's Day, we got him.
Yeah.
We got him on the way out. We let him see his mom, but we got him on the way out.
Right.
But sometimes you have to do that, right? It's 12, 13, 14-hour days, day in and day out.
To get one guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's not,
Yep.
You might get lucky, but, get a couple, but.
Sure.
Each team was probably doing about 2 to 3 targets a day, and I had 7 teams.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. So New York was a sanctuary or had sanctuary policies for a long time. Did it get more, sanctuary-like? In other words, did the degree of non-cooperation get greater in your experience?
Absolutely. When I first got to New York City, it wasn't bad, right? I came from the Newark field office, right? I started in Newark, and then I went to the academy to be an instructor, and then from there I got promoted to supervisor in New York City. So when I got to New York City, the cooperation was still there.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna say like the tail end of Bloomberg's term and all of de Blasio. That's when it really, the progressive stuff started coming in, where they kicked us out of Rikers Island. All this stuff happened all at once. But before that, our relationship with NYPD was pretty good.
Right. Interesting. So as it got tighter like that, did you guys hear from NYPD guys, in the field that, we really don't like this, but we got no choice. The suits are telling us to do this?
Yeah, to this day. Listen, what's the brass going to do when you're controlled by, a city council, city attorneys, and then you got the police commissioner and the chiefs that all got to work for the mayor's office. They're towing the line. They're not throwing away a $200,000 salary, just to help ICE. That's the way it goes.
I get it. So were you there in the wake of 9/11?
So what happened was, no, I was still in the Newark field office at the time.
Well, still, that's nearby.
Absolutely.
So what was that like being at ICE right after, or not ICE, was INS still right after 9/11?
Yeah, things changed. It changed overnight. 9/12, there was an all-out full court press, like on the recovery, on the recovery end of it, right? ICE played a pretty good part in the recovery there. We had Varick Street. I don't know if you remember, if you ever heard of it, but Varick Street had a facility. It was an SPC. So at the time, there was special processing centers.
Okay.
And ICE and Immigration, rather, had their own employees there was a jail on Barrack Street on the 4th floor.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And so that's very close to ground zero. So we had to go in and evacuate them and do all of this stuff to get the detainees out. And, HS at the time, investigations, everybody was trying to help. But then what happened was there was an all out, okay, we got to find these people.
Sure.
And then, it was game on. We were on the street every single night looking for leads and bad guys, people who wanted to still, we didn't know if the threat was over.
Right.
So Jersey City became a hotbed of activity for Newark.
Right. Interesting. So I want to ask you, I'm going to get to sort of what do you think about how it's going now under the Trump administration, but maybe before that, you were in the Army for many years. So you were non-com, right? I mean, you were a sergeant?
I was an enlisted personnel, yes.
Right. So what was different and what was the same about being in two different government agencies, basically? Because, that's what we're talking about here.
I would always say I have a soft spot for the military, right? Like it's always something that I wanted to do. And when I got out of the regular Army and joined the New Jersey National Guard, it provided me an opportunity to still kind of like do that gung-ho stuff where, we got to do so many cool things on these deployments, this, that, the other thing. And
right.
I've said this 100 times to people, but they don't understand it. To me, it was more of a hobby. Guys like to go fishing. I like to put my military stuff on and go play big Army.
Right, yeah.
But I would say that it's really funny that like leadership in both enterprises, okay, it's like you attack a problem almost the same way. You know what I mean? So for me, it was really advantageous for me. It helped me.
Interesting. So how's it going now? You're on the outside. You're not in ICE now, but how's the Trump administration doing? How's the border czar doing? Whatever you want to say in that regard, I'd love to hear it. Good or bad, it's the kind of thing you actually have some expertise. I assume you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, look, I think the president, when he campaigned, made it very clear, right? They want to do this. They wanted to attack immigration and they wanted to get rid of people who didn't belong in the United States.
Right.
They mentioned going after the worst of the worst, the criminal. Yeah, I get all that, but numbers don't lie. They never said they weren't going to go after visa overstays. They didn't say, look, there's millions of people in this country that have been through the immigration system and many, many, many hundreds of thousands that have been afforded the opportunity to due process, got voluntary departure. They took it as a benefit and walked out of the court knowing that, hey, I'm going to roll the dice. I doubt ICE is ever going to come look for me because there's so many of us, they're never going to get us. And then Donald Trump comes in with this strategy and says, look, this is what I want. I want mass deportations. And so now everybody in that realm is a target.
Right. Yep.
So I don't criticize him for that. I think Mr. Homan understood what needed to be done down at the border, how to secure the border. He was there for the Border Patrol. He listened to them. He listened to their leadership. And him and the president and the secretary got together and said, this is what we're doing it. And it worked. So now it's just the interior part of it.
Right. Which is the bigger problem, really.
Yeah. Interior enforcement, look, I got to say this to you. Okay. I got to say, I don't want to talk ill of Mr. Mayorkas. Okay. But as a guy from the outside looking in, he was the weakest secretary that I think DHS has had since its inception.
Yeah.
And the hard thing to swallow is that he's an intelligent person.
Right.
And so, when he gets on TV and he stands in front of a camera and says, the Border Patrol agents that are whipping the Haitians with whips, and even after he had facts, right?
That knew it was fake. Yeah. Right.
That knew it was fake. This guy he doubles down on it and then says, I'm going to punish people. Yep. How would any enforcement officer in the entire branch of DHS want to work for a person? It was like at that point, you knew he had no power. That power was coming from the White House.
Yeah. Interesting.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, look, the House of Representatives impeached the guy, so I'm not interested in going easy on him.
But to your original question, it's like when I see things like that happening, it's like, immigration and ICE, for instance, is being used as a political football sometimes.
Sure.
And,
right.
They were down at the 1 yard line and President Trump took the football from the 1 and he moved it. Now it's on the opponent's 40.
Right. Yep. Exactly. So one of the things that the administration's gotten some flack for is this idea of kind of a target number of how many people they need to be arresting. There's this idea of 3,000 arrests a day because they want to get to 1 million a year if possible. I don't think they're going to make it this year, but I understand that's what they're trying to do. What are your thoughts on that kind of, it's not so much a quota, but it's kind of a target. A lot of organizations have targets like that. Is that not realistic or is it helpful, not helpful? What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are this. Any institution or any enterprise has goals.
Right.
If you don't have goals, you're doing something wrong, okay?
Right.
So, mathematically, it's impossible they're going to reach that by the end of September 30th, 2025.
Sure. Right.
I mean, I'm not even Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory, and I know that, right?
Yeah, of course.
So I kind of understand that, there are some challenges to this. And right now, I think it's very difficult because the reason why they're in my opinion here, this is just my opinion.
Sure.
Even if they hired off the street today for this money they got from the bill, all the other stuff they need to get people through the academy, trained and into the field to actually impact this, and without using force multipliers out there, right, to increase the workforce to go interior wise, they needed more bed space. I mean, they're starting to build more facilities. We see this thing in Florida. They call the Alligator Alley.
Alligator Alcatraz.
Whatever.
Right, yeah.
That's it. I'm sorry. Alligator
Alley. The road that goes by it is Alligator Alley.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
So I think it's going to take them time.
Sure.
I think that number that I've heard, now I've talked to people, to men and women in the agency and many different field offices, and I asked them the same thing and nobody could confirm it. Said, show me a document. Can you just, is there a document? Don't even show me. Is there a document that you got that you could confirm and said, yeah, there was a 1 million number on there?
Oh, really? Okay. And there isn't?
No.
Interesting.
Said no.
Okay. Interesting.
So, I mean, I know as a senior leader, sometimes when you're talking and you're having a conversation, it talks itself into existence and then people start talking.
Right.
So, but I do think 1 million is aggressive, but like anything else. I mean, if it was a CEO of a company and he wanted to raise profits.
Right. Comes up with an aggressive target. Yeah. So what do you think about now, as fugitive operations teams are mainly going after people that even the left agrees are bad guys. In other words, drug dealers, gang members, this kind of thing. Obviously, if you're going to reduce the illegal immigrant population, though, you're going to need to be going after regular illegal aliens because most illegal aliens are not dealing drugs or raping people or any of that stuff. They're just working stiffs like anybody else. So, there's been a lot of pushback. Oh, they're arresting grandma. This person's been here, 10 years or whatever it is. What's your take on that kind of thing?
First of all, I mean, I think it's a campaign by one side, right? That no matter what ICE does, right, they're labeling it, all this other rhetoric, they can't tell the difference between, I'll use this in Minnesota as a great example, doing a criminal search warrant. These people think they're going after grandma and grandpa,
right,
and they're interfering in a human smuggling operation. I mean, it happens all the time. And I do believe there's plenty of organizations out there that want this administration to fail.
Right. And
in the name of power, I mean, it's evident. Well, no matter what they do, you have ACLU, Casa La Migra, you have these organizations that have lawsuits on standby. They're just flooding the courts with lawsuits to prevent this. And nobody wants to come to the table and say, okay, look, man, you say it's racial profiling. Here's what I'm telling you. It's targeted enforcement.
Right.
This is the methods that, The methods you may not like, but the outcomes are they amenable to removal? Yes or no? And if they are amenable to removal, then it's a lawful enforcement action.
Right.
Nobody can tell you, like I watch these videos and I got people screaming, show me your warrant, show me the warrant. And I'm sitting here watching the video and I ask people, what do you think? Oh, they should be showing them. They should be showing them. I said,
what warrant?
They should only be talking to the person of interest. They don't need to tell anybody what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You understand? So it doesn't matter what you think as the public. It's the law. I'm arresting Scott Mechkowski. If I'm engaging with him, I'm telling him why he's under arrest, who I am. But I don't need to announce it to everybody on the street.
Sure.
And I think that all plays into this lawsuits and everything else because it amplifies everything. These paid agitators out there interfering.
Right. When you were working on the street for INS and later ICE, did you ever encounter this kind of pushback? Because for me, it seems unlikely. And I remember telling Tom Homan a couple of years ago that if they really do start enforcing immigration law, that something like this was going to happen. I mean, it surprised even me with the intensity of it, but it didn't surprise me that it's happening. Is it something you ever saw when you were working on the street?
So, yes, right before I retired, and I'm gonna tell you how funny it really is. The agitators were the Bronx Defender's Office, the Brooklyn Defender's Office, ALA.
So the public defenders, I mean, the guys working for the city government.
Yeah, you had Legal Aid Society,
sure,
and these other churches, NYU Law, like all these people were together.
Right, of course.
There was a couple cases of interest in New York City, and they didn't like that these individuals were arrested. They caused all kinds of stuff. I mean, the behavior was grotesque, to say the least, right? But you could see the organization back then in 2017.
Wow.
You could see this all coming together with city council, right? So the city council, the mayor's immigration council, and the network that they built, okay? They built a network to disrupt operations in New York City. An example, if you even do some like offline Google searches later on, you just Google Varick Street, protests and, 26 Federal Plaza. That's what all these people did. They tried to disrupt operations.
Interesting. So we're running short on time. I wanted to ask you kind of an open-ended question, not to criticize anybody who's working there now, but what else should ICE be doing? What would you suggest them in the next, say, 3.5 years or whatever this term? What other kinds of things should ICE look to be doing?
That's hard. Is it ICE? Is it...
Okay, well, DHS in general, what else should they be doing on immigration?
I think E-Verify needs to be passed. I think that needs to be mandatory. I think E-Verify is an important tool. It really is. It's an important tool. They need to make that mandatory, right?
Yeah.
I do think that. I do think that you need a more robust infrastructure, right? And I've said this for years. These governors in these sanctuary states like Gavin Newsom and Phil Murphy and J.B. Pritzker and all, it was funny. They actually thought that like invoking these powers through these states and then so that immigration would have nowhere to put bodies would stop enforcement actions.
Right.
You understand? But then it backfired because there were states that didn't have those policies. And when they found out, they were like, oh, look, we could make some money. Now, it cost the government a little bit more money, but we were shipping people, let's just say from New York and New Jersey, they were going out to Moshannon Valley, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
You understand?
Right.
And then the attorneys start crying. I don't have access to my client and the families. I don't have access to my husband. They took him. Well, listen, don't take that up with immigration.
Right.
That argument nobody ever wants to talk about that.
Right.
So this thing that they want to do at Fort Dix.
What are they doing there?
They announced that they're looking at a couple locations to build facilities to house detainees.
Right.
And one is Fort Dix, McGuire, and the other one I think is Camp Atterbury in Indiana.
In Indiana, right? Yes. Okay.
Right. So I've been to all the places they want to put these facilities, right? On these installations. There's more than enough room.
Right.
They're secure locations.
Mm-hmm.
They have access to runways.
Right.
So with this money, I think they really need to figure out the infrastructure for housing.
Sure. Yeah, detention's definitely key. It's one of the bottlenecks that they've had. So, and it was always something you kind of alluded to, this idea of, if you can't hold them in New York, then they're going to be in Pennsylvania or maybe even Louisiana or something, and then they're far from their families and far from their lawyers. Something along similar lines that Homan has always stressed is that if sanctuary cities allowed ICE in the jails, they'd have their hands full. Like you said, it's almost a buffet of illegal alien criminals. You wouldn't even have time to send people out on the street to go and arrest people unless they were really, high profile, high value people. And yet what they're doing is essentially forcing ICE to make street apprehensions when it would be unnecessary otherwise. Just
a little bit of tidbit of information for you. In New York City, prior to, I don't even want to go down the road of who actually orchestrated us kicking us out of Rikers. It was a woman that DHS hired, and then she went to be the commissioner of, I don't even want to go down the road, right? But I mean, they've made some horrible hires, but I mean, anyway, I could tell you that being in New York City and knowing what I know and doing what I did, we were averaging, I just throw a number out there, 3,000 detainers a year at Rikers Island.
Right.
3,000, sometimes 3,200, sometimes 30. I'm just throwing spitball.
Sure. Yeah.
They kicked us out of the jail. That's 3,000 people a year since 2013, was it? 2014? So do the math.
Yeah.
These people, they got rid of bail reform, no bond, no bail reform. So people were walking out. They weren't even getting booked.
Right.
And I would say that, Tom Homan had a point, right? Well, yeah, we should be getting people from the jails. But what that enabled us to do as fugitive operation officers were to actually go through the dockets and look for the people who may have gotten out. Right. And by mistake or a state was relieved, whatever, and really concentrate on finding them.
Right. Yeah.
And assisting our brothers and sisters in, with HSI, with some of their cases.
Right. Okay, well, good. I thought this was kind of interesting. Hope you keep an eye on the debate. Has anybody offered you a job to come back into ICE, or is it something you're not interested in at this point?
I mean, I've gotten calls from some people asking me, and at this point, I don't, I don't know. It'd have to be the right thing,
Sure. This is a video-only podcast, so people can't see it, but your background is a beach with palm trees, so you're not on a beach with palm trees, but obviously that would be a very different environment than going back into ICE. So, Scott, I appreciate your spending the time with us and giving us some of your reflections and experience, and hope you keep an eye on this. And if you got something new coming up at some point, you got a book or something else like that, let us know. We'll be happy to have you back.
Mark, thank you and the Center for Immigration Studies and all the stuff that you guys do to bring transparency out there. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Hope you tune in next week. I thank you to Brian Griffith, our producer, for making this whole thing work. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any complaints, criticisms, ideas for future shows, anything like that, email us at center@cis.org, and we will definitely take into consideration any emails you send us. So until next week, thanks for tuning in.